Am I live?
Yes.
This is the Bill Wooditch Show. And the Bill Wooditch Show is the way always forward. Today we're going to talk about something that I think we all have experienced or continue to experience at some point. Probably at different levels, different degrees, but we all experience this word, attachment. Attachment. When we connect to, identify with, or hold something near and dear that we're attached to. For me, it's hard to get rid of metal. I have cars that I purchased decades ago that people take care of for me in garages far, far from my home. Why do I do it? I was attached to them. Attached by an emotional experience, really strong form of attachment. Attached because it represented something in that emotional climb forward, representation. And then I identified a certain period of my life, a time in my life, with that material. Now, I know in my head not to attach myself to these things. I know that. But it's very difficult for me to emotionally embrace what I intellectually understand with clarity. What do you attach yourself to? Is it another person? Do you identify yourself through and with the other person? Do you identify yourself through and with an experience? Something that you can hold as material or something that's non-material? Do you attach yourself to a freedom of spirit ethos? A freedom of spirit thought and action, a certain style or way of behavior that you're so attached to, it's very hard to divest from, to diverge away from. What do you attach to? That's a tough one. It's a philosophical one. I love going down the trail of philosophy. It opens up so many doors and possibly closes off some other ones. But I think the door of philosophical understanding begins with awareness. Take a step back and become aware of what you're attached to and ask this simple question. Is it good for me? Is it healthy? Or is it not? You know, I always say to my friends that at the end of the day, which comes sooner than later for all of us, life and death, that we can't take what we think we own with us. And no matter if we financially own something, really, in reality, we're just leasing it in the time we're here. The one thing that we do own is our attitude. Now, I spent a lot of time studying the great minds of self-help, studying these minds because I wanted to see what the common theme was. What the common theme was from Earl Nightingale to Tony Robbins and beyond. What was the crux of the 7 habits? Where did that come from? Where did everything from Tony Robbins come from? Where did Zig Ziglar start? What was that one kernel? What was that one thing that would change everything and open my world up? So it was the time before Kindle. It's the time before any kind of e-reader. So I stacked books. And for weeks, I studied and looked and dug through looking for that one thing. And I found it. I found it in Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. And the key to everything is attitude. How you take in and represent the external in here and how that comes back out in terms of behavior. Attitude. Viktor Frankl, attitude. And almost everyone, and I think everyone, but my recollection sometimes is foggy, especially after the weekend we just had, the long weekend we just had, 4th of July. Everyone mentioned Viktor Frankl. Man's Search for Meaning and the importance of attitude in dictating not only future happiness, but to Frankl, who was a World War II prisoner in Auschwitz, survival. Those who were in those prison camps and looked back and thought fondly about what was in their past, and then looked forward with a sense of sanguine optimism that they would have that again, were the ones outside of divine intervention that survived. Their attachment wasn't to the present condition, but it was to the future possibility. And the attachment was to the awareness that attitude was critical in their survival. And it's critical for yours. It's not only critical for survival, it's critical if you're going to thrive. And if you take a look at your attachments and what you value, you will start and begin to realize what is important, what it is that truly makes you happy at your core, what you've identified yourself with through attachments, and then you can think, does this attachment bring me a positive or a negative? You know, Colin Powell, so in general, said that we attach ourselves to ego. And when we do this, and ego can be good or bad, ego is neutral. So ego can be the thing that we most often think it is. There's a certain what I have, what I am, what I look like. And then there's the other part that's just whatever you attach to, that's what I represent myself as. Could be good, could be, it's just neutral. That's your ego. But he said that in war, if you attach your ego to a position, whether it's in the field or perhaps as a major or general, an admiral, and the position falls, your ego goes with it. Now that's an attachment to a position, to a title, to a thing outside and most times beyond your control. What you do control is your attachments, understanding the impact of what they have, what they do in your life. Now I have an attachment based on need to the person that's going to jump around behind this screen. Her name is Kelsey McDaniel. It's not personal, Kelsey, it's just business. She's going to come around here and talk about her attachments. No, not really. Why don't you pull up a seat here? Join the Bill Wooditch Show. Those of you who followed us in our past life on Sirius Radio and watched us on Facebook Live, you recognize this face. Yes, she rarely smiles, usually because she's upset with me.
It's just my face.
Kels, what do you think about attachments?
Well, I think what you were maybe leading to a couple minutes ago.
Maybe, which means I was vague.
Well, let's see if we are on the same page. Do you like how I'm sitting back since you yelled at me yesterday?
I liked it better when one of us is in 3D. So it looks like we're like 4D TV. 3D.
When you're attached to your attitude, right, and you take ownership over your attitude, and you're not focused on the present situation, you are not influenced by, well, not necessarily influenced by what's currently going on around you right now. So you're focused on your attitude, and it's inward. But I think what you were almost getting to,
almost getting to, and I think
is you don't take anything with you that you think that you own, and I like that. And something that I know is really big for you is legacy and leaving a legacy. So did you want to talk about how to do that?
Well, the viewer is watching my legacy working now in the present, in you.
Thanks.
In the training, in the camera work. And Kelsey is a person who is so fearful of stepping out, even in radio, where you couldn't be seen. Mm-hmm. And now she's at the point where she not only tries to hog the camera by sitting in front of it.
I moved back.
She was the essential part of the Bill Wooditch Show, so she worked her way in through talent and ability. But first, I think the big part about legacy is showing people that they can fly, and then putting them to the edge when they can, when they're ready, and then giving them sometimes that push. and they can do the rest. That's all part of looking back through legacy. And I am attached to legacy, so everything I do really is based on how do I further that legacy by providing some kind of meaning for people. Here's the other thing about attachments I want you to think about. If I'm attached to my image, I'm going to wear a suit a certain day, I'm going to maybe cut off my sleeves and try to show off some biceps on another day because I want to represent some sort of image to the external world that I'm attached to. And so through life, as I've gone through life, I've changed some of the attachments in my life, in the physical part, maybe some in the intellectual part, because I've learned and grown, and what I've been attached to in the past as an idea, I've been able to let go because I see the fallacy possibly of the thinking, or maybe I see that there's another way of thinking that I attach myself to. I don't try to stay as rigid in all of my thoughts. I am rigid in my beliefs of what is right and what is wrong, but not so much in my thoughts that I try to keep flexible and malleable so I'm open to the new. So I'm not as attached to that. But people will tell you that know me, or at least have experienced me on different levels, that I am attached to a certain image of me. Look in the mirror. Are you? Are you attached to a certain image of you? Do you have a healthy, whatever that is, self-image? Do you have a self-image that's negative? You know, there's a positive and negative to ego. As we said, it's neutral. It's how you assign and how you attach what that word means. That's all I got on attachment, really.
But I like that, though. You attach yourself to the possibility of a successful you. Mm-hmm. You don't attach yourself to, when I walk in, am I the 10 in the room and everyone else is an 8 or a 7? You know, you attach yourself to the best version of you, whether that be physically or career-wise or a combination of both. And it just goes back to the...
So what would they say? If you were the 6 in a room, you should probably find a different room. And if you're the 10 in the room, you should probably find a different room too, right?
I don't know who they are, and I've never heard that, which means that I'm probably the 6 in the room.
I just made that up.
I'm just asked to leave.
I just made that up. Let's talk about one last thing on attachments. I thought I was done. I'm not. Attachment to people. What does that really mean? What are you attached to? Are you attached to the concept, the idea, the thought of a person? Who you think they are? Are you attached to their belief system, their core values, what they really are? And what they really are comes out at some point. It comes out at some point. We make an assessment, a judgment. We have an illusion, perhaps, but we need to find reality. And reality comes through experience, consistent experience with and through another. Learning from their behavior, learning how they handle stress, learning how they look at life. Is it optimistic? Is it pessimistic? Is it come what may? Or is it, let me pick this up with my hands and make this happen for myself? You know, there's so many people who sit around waiting for some kind of divine intervention in their life, where they're just going to be picked up from a pocket of mediocrity and placed in a position of superiority, a place where they have advantage. No, the place where you have advantage starts here. It starts with your attachment to the work, your attachment to the not the result. I was going there, not the result. Your attachment to the process that influences the result. Think about this. You can't own every result. Some are beyond your scope of change and of influence because politics enter in. Outside forces that you can't control enter in. But what you must be attached to is the work and the process, being able to refine with that open mind, being able to change, alter for a positive effect, that you must own. And it comes from, as the self-help gurus will tell you, attitude. Is it the only thing? No. That will get you forward? No. Is it essential? Yes. Bill Wooditch with Kelsey McDaniel, on a philosophical and do I love philosophy Bill Wooditch show. Until next week, come what may, be attached to those things that make a difference in your life for the positive. And I'm out.